the biggest security risk wasn't in a boardroom. It was in my own home. As a mother of two, I saw firsthand how easily kids can be exposed to dangers online, scams, cyberbullying, addiction loops, and even predators. When we have phishing and social engineering, they always work because they hijack our cognitive biases, the mental shortcuts we use to make quick decisions. Hackers create urgency, impersonate authority figures, and overload us with information to trigger impulsive reactions instead of logical thinking. AI is a Ferrari without brakes. Companies rush to adopt AI, but without proper safeguards. And AI systems themselves become vulnerabilities. To me, AI is the hidden but the biggest insider threat.
Hi everyone, today we are bringing you a very special episode ahead of International Women's Day. I'm excited to welcome Elcin Biren, security leader, founder and CEO of Swiss CyberSmart. Elcin brings nearly 2 decades of experience across a very diverse set of cybersecurity roles, from ethical hacker to risk manager to CISO. At Swiss CyberSmart, she's currently on a mission to make cybersecurity accessible to everyone and is running the world's first cybersecurity parents bootcamp. On the top of that, Elcin was named among the 40 under 40 in cybersecurity. She has been actively teaching cybersecurity on various academic platforms, making it easy to understand for all skill levels. Elcin also serves on multiple advisory boards, including the Swiss Cyber Institute and IDC EMEA's CISO exchange. And she has led Women in Tech initiatives and recently made a pledge at the London House of Lords in her new role as a global ambassador for the Global Council for Responsible AI. So, Elcin, we are thrilled to have you here on our Be Fearless podcast. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Alexandra. It's a pleasure to be here today on a special day.
Yes. So I'd love to hear about your journey. You took your first ethical hacking training back in 2006. So what's the story behind that, and how has your passion for cybersecurity evolved since then?
Thanks for the question. Actually, back in 2006, cybersecurity wasn't a mainstream career choice, especially for women. But for me, the idea of protecting the digital world wasn't just a profession. It was a calling. I have always been obsessed with safeguarding people and organizations from those who seek to cause harm. So it's something deeply ingrained in me. Because hackers constantly think about how things break, where vulnerabilities lie, and how systems can be exploited. And when I took my first ethical hacking training, I wasn't just learning how to break into systems. I was learning how to think ahead. And as an industrial engineer, my foundation is in optimizing processes. But ethical hacking added a new dimension. It taught me to think beyond boundaries, to see security through the eyes of an attacker, not just a defender. So this combination became my greatest strength. Industrial engineering perspective helps me streamline security, align it with business needs, and drive strategic impact. On the other side, hacker mindset enables me to challenge assumptions, break conventional thinking, and uncover hidden risks. Because real security, as we all know, isn't just about protecting systems. It is about knowing how they can break before they do. So in cybersecurity, people that I work with, we are all very lifetime learners, because in our field, passion and curiosity are not optional. They're essential. So the landscape evolves daily, and we must translate complex vulnerabilities into solutions that IT can fix and businesses can act upon. So at its core, cybersecurity to me is a language, one that bridges technology, business, and risk. The better you understand how hackers think, the better you translate security needs to IT. And the deeper you understand business objectives, the stronger the security strategies you build.
My God, it's a very amazing answer. I really love the way you created this transition from understanding hackers. You can really become the leader of protecting against these risks. And you've worn so many hats in the industry, from ethical hacker to risk manager to CISO. Which part of the journey do you think was the biggest catalyst for your career?
When I think my career, I think the foundation of my cybersecurity career was laid during my time as an IT lead auditor, information security officer at Sanco, because it was my first deep dive into cybersecurity at scale, working across 12 industries and auditing 20 organizations. This experience shaped not just my expertise, but also my problem solving mindset and leadership approach. During this time, I was responsible for pen testing, IT audits, and compliance security risks, and into business impacting decisions, and leading ISO 27001 certification project. And I learned how to build security frameworks from the ground up and aligning them with real businesses needs rather than just regulatory requirements. You're going to hear this today from me a lot, because as now AI is coming, we are talking a lot of regulatory requirements. But I think that the core thing is, it's really, for me, what truly fueled my passion was bringing security with business strategy. I wasn't just identifying risks. I was developing security policies, optimizing IT processes, and implementing governance models that scaled across multiple industries. And this role taught me cybersecurity isn't just about protection. It's about efficiency, resilience, and more importantly, business enablement. And this early stage experience became the catalyst for everything I pursued later. And yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so great, because a lot of people out there, they sometimes just focus on the tech part and not as much on the business part. And it's so essential to be able to translate the technology into actual business case, because if the technology always has to translate into business advantage. So right now you're founder and CEO of Swiss CyberSmart. So maybe tell us more, how did it translate into business?
I mean, it's a very interesting story for me, because after nearly 2 decades of working across industries, cultures, and different roles, from technical expert to strategic leader, I realized it was time to give back and translate everything I've learned into something meaningful for the public. And Swiss CyberSmart is built on 2 key pillars. The first one is on-demand CISO services and CISO advisory. I work closely with small and medium-sized business to tailor their cybersecurity strategies that are both cost-effective and impactful. Because unfortunately, many companies struggle with security because they either lack the expertise or overspend on generating solutions that don't address their actual risks. So I help companies and even CISOs themselves go beyond just checking compliance boxes. I focus on what really matters. So finding and fixing real security gaps based on their unique risks, building threat-driven cybersecurity strategies that actually protect the business, not just satisfy regulators, and turning security from a technical necessity into a business advantage. So it's really, at the end of the day, my job is to bridge the gap between security and business, making cybersecurity work not just for IT, but for the entire organization. And the second service we offer is cybersecurity e-learning platform, one of the most fulfilling projects I'm working on, because I poured my heart on it. I created a cybersecurity e-learning platform for all, but especially for families and educators, because I firmly believe cybersecurity is a human right. Parents and teachers shape the digital habits of the next generation, and yet they often lack the guidance to protect children online. This platform is designed to empower them with simple, actionable knowledge on online safety, digital resilience, and threat awareness. And my goal to change the conversation around cybersecurity, transforming it from a complex, fear-driven topic into an essential life skill that everyone can understand and apply. So I'm a Jungian. So Carl Jung once said, life really begins at 40. Until then, you're just doing research. And I couldn't agree more. For years, I searched what truly fulfills me. And I realized it's serving others through knowledge, impact, and empowerment. So Swiss CyberSmart is my way of doing exactly that. I'm on a mission to help businesses stay secure and guide families navigate the digital world safely, and hopefully creating a more cyber aware society.
I don't think I've ever seen such an example where under one umbrella falls both enterprise safety and also safety for parents. I think this is one of the very first boot camps that you created for parents, and I'm just really curious, what is the inspiration behind it and what's the story behind launching something like this?
Oh, thanks for asking this, because that's why I put my heart into it, right? Because let's be real, our kids are growing up in a world we never had to navigate. Right now, as we speak, there are 500,000 predators online lurking in gaming platforms, social media, and messaging apps. And yet we tell ourselves they will figure it out, or we will just delay tech use. But that's not enough anymore. After spending, protecting corporations, governments, and institutions from cyber threats, but nothing prepared for me the moment I realized the biggest security risk wasn't in a boardroom. It was in my own home. As a mother of two, I saw firsthand how easily kids can be exposed to dangers online, scams, cyberbullying, addiction loops, and even predators. And what scared me the most parents were left feeling powerless. The truth is, big tech isn't just selling apps and games. They are selling engagement, addiction, and data. So we know that roughly $400 billion a year by keeping kids and us hooked. This isn't just about screen time. It is about their safety, identity, and future. So that's why I even left my role, in the bank, and created a cybersecurity parents masterclass to equip families with real digital skills. But it's very important, Alexandra, that it's not just fear-driven restrictions. And because I strongly believe cybersecurity isn't just an IT problem, it's a human and parenting problem. And digital literacy is no longer optional. And as I said, it's one of its kind, but also this is the only course I also know that rooted in neuroscience that helps parents truly understand and counter how digital tools are designed to hack our brains. Because I explain this every day to my kids, how apps, games, and social media manipulate attention and behavior, and the scientific impact on their developing brain. And because kids are smart, when they understand why screen time affects them the way it does, the conversation shifts. In my house, this was a solution. So instead of rules and restrictions, I want my kids to develop self-awareness and control. Or instead of tech-driven conflicts, parents us become their safe haven, guides, someone they trust, not just, someone who says no. And also constantly fighting technology, we as families learn how to navigate together, because it's all about owning the technology, understanding it, and turning our, next generation digital champions, not digital victims.
That is such a good answer. It just makes me think about, when the Gen AI just came out, and it's just to draw the comparison between household and then enterprises. In a way, when Gen AI just came out, a lot of enterprises were just like, no, you can't use it, you can't go there. And then other enterprises went about and thought, hey, how can I create a safer environment around this? And just to draw this analogy of enterprises within families, I think this kind of conversation definitely should start happening within families, because I think this is where a lot of bad conversations arise, because children don't understand why are they prohibited from using certain technology. But by giving rationale, by educating parents how to have such a conversation, this is such a great initiative for anyone who is considering, hey, how do I better speak to my kid, and just create the safer environment. And on top of all of those things, you've also been recognized as 40 under 40 leader in cybersecurity. So have you faced any unique challenges being a woman in this industry?
Yeah, I am now over 40, but yeah, this was recognitions in the past, 3 years, 2 years, thanks to the community. Yeah, I mean, for many years, I questioned whether I truly belonged. So when you're a minority in any industry, you don't just face external barriers. You also face, actually, it's more for me, the internal battles. Even with the best mentors and supportive colleagues, the feeling of being an outsider can linger. But over time, because it's a long story for me, but over time, I learned that authority actually isn't granted. It's built through impacts. So I stopped focusing on fitting in and started to focusing on leading, driving change, and setting new standards for inclusion in cybersecurity. So that's why I try to help women across the globe by, leading women in tech initiatives. I mean, they gave me a chance to do it, right? It was really a privilege for me to lead this and to be part of these initiatives. And then I mastered both technical depth and strategic foresight, ensuring that my voice and the minority's voice carried weight, not just in technical discussions, but at the executive table. Because where security decisions shape industries, and since beginning of my career, I volunteered many board roles in the industry, well-known organizations. I really pushed myself to serve and to be out of my comfort zone. But again, the real breakthrough came when I shifted my mindset from proving myself to empowering others. And now I advocate not just for more women in cybersecurity, but for a culture that values diversity in thought, the approach and leadership. Because I think the industry doesn't need more women. It needs more perspectives, more bold decision makers, and more leaders who challenge the status quo. Cybersecurity is not about who belongs. It's certainly about who leads, who innovates, and who builds a safer digital future. And that's exactly what I intend to continue doing.
That is awesome. That is awesome. What do you think still needs to be changed in cybersecurity?
I mean, there are a lot of things we still need to do, because one of the most damaging misconceptions is that still cybersecurity is only for highly technical individuals. Actually, cybersecurity is more than a technical challenge. It's a human, strategic, and societal issue, as I mentioned before. Yet too often leadership is still defined, and this is really annoying for me, who is always available rather than who is most effective. Because some of the most effective cybersecurity professionals are not those who write the best code, but those who understand the bigger picture, how security impacts businesses, people, and society as a whole. So to change this, I think we must actively recruit individuals with backgrounds in law, policy, psychology, art. It's very important, who bring fresh perspectives to security challenges. And also we need to recognize and promote leaders who bridge the strategy and security, not just those who excel in technical execution. But now it's really changing. When I go to in IDC, CISO exchange summits, the half of the CISO is also coming from business. It's really depending on the company needs. So, but the other thing also, I think especially for women, equal parental leave should be the norm for across the globe, not a privilege. And having said that, countries I just read yesterday, countries like Japan and South Korea offer generous paternity leave, but yet women's leadership participation remains still low. So this shows that policy alone isn't enough. Workplace culture must evolve alongside it. So we need to invest in mentorship and sponsorship, but real leadership pathways. Women and underrepresented, it's minority groups they don't just need entry-level opportunities. They need sponsorship along their careers. And it's also, again, diversity for me, not just about fairness. It's about effectiveness. So when we are hiring, we also, it's not about, don't hire just meet quotas, but truly integrate diverse voices into decision-making. Because this is really, I see in many companies, unfortunately, still, this is like a metric, diversity metric, but we need to move out from there. And before I finish, actually, I want to add, one of the easiest actionable steps that I recommend to our listeners now, challenge implicit biases in hiring. For example, consider blind resume reviews to reduce unconscious bias. So just, hidden the names, and also take Harvard University's implicit bias test to better understand your own biases. From today, be mindful of who you collaborate with. It was also a game changer for me to understand my unconscious biases, because this is really, we all have biases. This is how our brain works. But when we challenge to instinct to choose familiarity, for example, if you tend to prefer working with people who think, look, or act like you, with your brain role too, for the safety reasons, take a step back and intentionally engage with diverse perspectives. Ask questions to another person, because innovation happens when we step outside of our comfort zone. So that's why it's very important, I think, in cyber, wherever we go, even hiring, even diversity, even, self-awareness is very important.
That is very important. I just feel like after this podcast, everyone listening should go and do their bias test, because I think one way or another, yeah, we're all biased. We're all biased. And a lot of us just don't realize that. And whether we are talking about women, about the LGBT community, or any other minority community, a lot of us don't realize the kind of biases that we hold. So just getting that perspective, and as you rightfully mentioned, do the resume check where you don't see the names or anyone's background, really can help to make one's company diversity really present. So diving more into cybersecurity, considering your background in ethical hacking, what is your perspective on evolution of browsers-based attacks?
Browser-based attacks have evolved significantly and totally becoming more sophisticated. And it's really harder to detect, because when I started in cyber, drive-by downloads and simple phishing attempts were among the biggest threats. Today's attacks don't need downloads or visible triggers. They exploit browser vulnerabilities, memory execution, and cloud misconfigurations, use fileless malware, attacking users without leaving a trace. And I often compare browser-based attacks to crocodiles in a river. Silent, patient, and always evolving. Even we call them, watering hole attacks. So early on, they relied on brute force, just like primitive cyber attacks that needed user interaction. But over time, they've adapted to blend into their environment, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And just like a crocodile latching onto its prey in midstream, modern attacks use session hijacking, token theft, and I don't know if I mentioned browser exploits to silently take control without even the user ever noticing. So attackers don't just wait for you to click a malicious link anymore. They poison trusted websites and turning familiar places into hidden traps. But I think the problem is, just as people underestimate a still river, businesses often underestimate their browser security, assuming firewalls and antivirus alone are enough. But I really recommend staying ahead. Organizations need a layered threat intelligence approach. What I mean by that, from zero trust browsing to continuous monitoring. And again, AI powered detection, because the attacks have adapted, so must our defenses.
Yeah, definitely. And right now, especially phishing and social engineering attacks have evolved so much. And since you're super passionate about neuroscience and brain optimization, I'm really curious, what are your thoughts around the development of this kind of attacks?
Oh, that's an amazing question, actually, because we all know, actually, the cyber, in cybersecurity, our community know that it started with Kevin Mitnick, mid-90s. I also mentioned my now science fiction book about the cybersecurity and internet history for the kids, actually not for the young adults and adults. But attackers don't just exploit systems; they exploit the brain, using psychology to manipulate emotions, judgment, and behavior. Because when we have phishing and social engineering, they always work because they hijack our cognitive biases, the mental shortcuts we use to make quick decisions. Hackers create urgency, impersonate authority figures, and overload us with information to trigger impulsive reactions instead of logical thinking. And now we have also, AI powered attackers, which happened in Hong Kong last year. And, they sent over, I think, $25 million to the attackers because they think that they are having a conversation with the team, but they are all deep fakes. So this urgency and fear, authority and trust, cognitive overload, it's really make people click without think or, comply with authorities. But if you ask me the best defense, I always say training the brain. In my course, I teach parents to use neuroscience and the ODA loop. So it's observe, orient, decide, act. A decision-making framework originally developed for fighter pilots. Why? Because attackers exploit human psychology and this exact decision cycle. And when we know this cycle, when we know how they actually exploit our brains, it's really, like a training mind. And the strongest defense is a well-trained mind. When you slow down, pause before clicking, verify before trusting, recognize manipulation, understand the biases, questions urgency, and start thinking like an attacker. Anticipate tactics, disrupt their strategy. I know it's easier said than, done, but employees and their families are the first line of defense still, because everything is connected. And that's why cybersecurity training must go beyond the workplace. When people learn to spot threats, think critically, and react smartly, we all become the human firewall. So that's again, going to CyberSmart project that I am doing. It's very connected because I've also done a couple of, self-assessments with the CISO communities, ask them that, if we do self-assessment to your families, how is their level, in terms of cybersecurity? They say, oh, don't do that. So that's why it's not, their partners or their kids, we are all together, especially after pandemic, working more and more, working from, hybrid, still most of us in the world, hybrid work environment. It's very important to understand these techniques. Yeah.
Definitely. And, AI is also one of the biggest trends today in cybersecurity. I feel like wherever you look, you just see the word AI. So what best practices for securing AI system and mitigating such risk would you recommend for security leaders?
Actually, we all agree is AI is redefining everything, and also cybersecurity. It's a very powerful defense tool and a weapon for attackers. But for me, the problem is AI is a Ferrari without brakes. Companies rush to adopt AI, but without proper safeguards. And AI systems themselves become vulnerabilities. To me, AI is the hidden but the biggest insider threat. And in my experience as security leaders must focus on three critical areas. So first, AI model integrity and adversarial attacks. AI can be manipulated through data poisoning, bias exploitation, and adversarial inputs. And organizations must implement robust validation, continuous monitoring, and ethical AI frameworks to protect against AI-driven attacks. And the second critical thing is AI-powered social engineering and deepfakes. Attackers are using AI to create, as I just mentioned, hyper-realistic phishing emails, deepfake voice scams, videos, misinformation campaigns. So security awareness training must evolve to include AI-driven deception techniques from now on, because traditional phishing defenses are no longer enough. And the third critical area, and for me, one of the most critical part, is the AI governance, transparency, and compliance. Many AI systems function as black boxes, making it difficult to audit, red team testing, or explain decisions. So security leaders must push for AI transparency, fairness, and regulatory alignment to ensure responsible AI adoption. And that's why global collaboration is critical. Institutions are playing a critical role. As a global ambassador at the Global Council for Responsible AI, I work alongside 60 leaders worldwide to shape the future of AI, because we need to ensure AI is ethical, secure, and beneficial for humanity.
Yeah, it is essential. And I know AI is very, not so very recent topic anymore, but I'm sure throughout your career, you face so many incidents, and without naming any specific war stories, what do you think are the most important steps in managing cybersecurity crisis situations?
I mean, when I think the most important steps, I want to go back again, to think like an hacker side, right? Because cyber attacks don't happen instantly. They unfold in stages. A hacker doesn't just break in and steal everything in one click. They follow a structured attack life cycle, often mapped to the cyber kill chain. So the best security teams don't just focus on the breach itself. They track the full attack lifecycle, whether it's reconnaissance, lateral movement, or data exfiltration. And understanding each phase help us detect, disrupt, and contain threats before they escalate. Because the other thing also is in every major cybersecurity crisis I have experienced, the defining factor wasn't just a technical response. It was how leadership handled the situation. At the end, it's a business crisis. Leadership, legal teams, PR, and regulators must be aligned to manage the response. The goal, transparency without escalating fear, both inside the company and externally. Because it's very, very important. When an incident happens, there is no time to panic. The best organizations follow a structured, it's more like a disciplined crisis response to contain the threat, minimize the damage, and restore. Why I say that? Because containment is a very critical strategic factor. If you're cutting off access too soon, can tip off attackers, especially in advanced persistent threats. I mean, simply shutting down the attack isn't enough. You need to remove backdoors, patch vulnerabilities, and restore clean systems. So again, it's a really process from the breach and also the full post-mortem to help us to identify weaknesses and improve response plans, and again fortify the defenses for the future. Because if you want to be strong, we need to, it's not about not getting hacked, it's about how we recover, adapt, and come back even stronger. This is when I explain, there are also a lot of incidents came to my mind, but it's not an easy process. But and we need to learn also from industry. That's why I really I have privilege to be in many different communities like Swiss Cyber Institute, IZC. We really learn from our communities. It's very important.
It is very important, and I'm sure being an ethical hacker in the past definitely helps when you try to recreate what exactly the pathway that an attacker went through when they created a certain incident. So if you could just give advice to your younger self when you just started your career in cybersecurity, what would you tell yourself?
Oh, I think I will tell her, you don't fit into cybersecurity. Cybersecurity needs to evolve to fit you. And I will also tell her there will be many times when you are the one and only woman in the room. Own it with confidence and turn it to your strength. And also leadership, it's not about proving yourself. It's about making an impact that speaks louder than words. And for anyone starting out today, your perspective, your background, your voice matter more than you realize.
Wise words. I think as we conclude this podcast, a little tradition that we like to do is that the previous podcast guest likes to ask questions for our next guest. So our last guest asked, as a senior leader or senior practitioner in cybersecurity, what are the 3 leadership traits that you believe have been most impactful for you in terms of your own leadership and in terms of that laid out over the years?
Great question. Thanks for it. And my top 3 leadership traits are actually clarity and complexity, because cybersecurity is technical, but great leaders simplify the complex and communicate security in a way that moves people to action. And the second is crisis-ready mindset. Security leaders don't just plan for success. We prepare for the worst case scenario because we think like an hacker, and we need to thrive under pressure. And the third, and for me, one of the most important things, is empathy-driven leadership. The best cybersecurity leaders are not just technical. They understand people, business needs, and the psychology of risk. Because again, cybersecurity is not just about securing system, it's about securing trust. And trust is built through leadership that is clear, prepared, and deeply human.
Wow. Well, those are some amazing traits that you put out there. What is one question would you like to ask our next guest?
I mean, we talk a lot about AI, and AI is transforming every industry, every security strategy, every digital interaction, everything. So my question is, in a world where AI is being used by both defenders and attackers, how do we ensure AI remains a tool for security rather than a threat to it?
I think this has been so insightful. It was so interesting just to learn your journey, how you applied all your learnings from ethical hacking to creating this security within enterprises and within families. Any sort of enterprise or family that you can think about. And it's just been so insightful. Elcin, it's been such a pleasure to have you on our podcast, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has been my pleasure. Thank you so much. It was really great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.